Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year's and everything is just going great. Everyone's starting their new year off with a lot of positive momentum to get rid of the negative energy that 2020 left with a lot of us. So my first video of this year is going to be top 5 CGC books that I received for 2020. Now, my criteria for my top 5 isn't all about financial gain or anything. It's just the books that I got that have the most personal value to me, which could be like a great cover or something that just kind of means a little bit more than a graded book. So starting off, this is an honorable mention. It's not in my top 5, but I have Spawn #1, the Newstand variant, at a CGC 9.8, signed by Todd McFarlane. It's not the beautiful signature or anything like that. A lot of people did not get a signature like they were expecting, but I'm happy with mine. It's the closest to how he would sign his little windows on his covers. Now, my story with this book is a few years back, me and 3 other people opened up a comic book shop in our local area called Villains Comics. Well, when we first opened, we bought a long box from a person, and inside that long box had 30 of these Spawn Newstand books, which was an incredible score. And this was before Newstand became hot and resurgent and everything like that. So we had over 30. We went through and we tried to find the ones that had the highest grade, and then we kept those for ourselves. So we ended up keeping me and my friend Dustin, and we sold several others. We kept our copy, and then when Todd McFarlane did his signing, we sent ours off to be signed by McFarlane. And then we also received a lot of feedback from the people that we sold to, where they went through the process of getting most of them clean and pressed, and some didn't. But all of them were very high grade. A lot of people got 9.8s. So I want to say out of 30, the ones that we got feedback on, at least 20 came back 9.8. So that was a great score for everybody involved. And I'm just happy to have that in my collection. It's got a personal story for me with our comic shop and receiving that. So that's awesome. So, starting on my top 5, this book is Before Watchmen, Comedian #1. Now, what makes this book significant is it is a 1 in 200 variant. So what that means is a comic book shop had to order 200 copies of the regular trade edition of this book to receive this one variant. Now, this book is signed by Jim Lee and J.G. Jones, and that was in 2015. Now, what makes it special to me is, one, I love Jim Lee. I love The Watchmen. I love Comedian. But this copy is also signed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who played the Comedian in the Watchmen movie. So, there you can kind of see it. That's where he signed it, the Comedian, and then he drew a smiley face. So, I thought that was awesome. I love this book. It's beautiful. I've been on the hunt to find any book that has been signed on April 4th, so a 4/4 signing, because that's my son's birthday, and I would really like to have a book just for him. Be like, hey, this was signed on your birthday. I think that would be something really cool for him. Now, before this got signed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I had this book, and it was a 9.8. So I'm not quite sure what happened with the signing, but between A and B, it came back at 9.6. I might resubmit it to get it regraded. I'm not quite sure, because the whole turnaround process with CGC right now is ridiculous. But let me know what you guys think. If it's worth submitting, I'll probably take that into consideration. I might end up doing that this year. So next up, I'm pretty sure a lot of people got this book this year. A lot of people wanted the 9.8. I don't need the 9.8. I just wanted to have it. So I've got The Boys #1 at a 9.0. And I'll put the link in that video below. But I got this book as well as The Boys #3 that was raw. Now, I sent the raw copy of The Boys #3 to the CGC signing that had Anthony Starr, the actor that plays Homelander, and I should be getting that back in a week, hopefully before the week's over, if not next week. But as soon as I get that book back, I'll make sure that I have a video posted up, because I'm super excited about that. I love The Boys. I love it enough to where I fell in love with the TV show. I bought trade paperbacks so I could start reading it. The story is amazing. It's so good. It's just as great as the show. So, I love this book. I'm happy to have it. A lot of people would probably think this would be my number one, but this next book, which is my number 3 pick, I never thought I was going to have this book, but life created an opportunity where I had a bunch of Walking Dead statues that McFarlane did. So I had Negan, I think I had Michonne, and I had Rick. Well, I sold all of them at the same time to a buddy of mine, and whenever I received the payment from that, somebody else was actually offering me a trade. It wasn't this book, but it was the same copy of that book, for a lot of my graded books that I didn't want to trade like that, because they were overvaluing what they had and undervaluing what I had. So in that little situation, I ended up looking around, trying to see what the prices for this book were actually going for. So with that, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Now, it is restored. A lot of people dog on restored, but low grade's better than no grade, right? So this has extensive restoration. It has color touch on the cover, pieces added to the cover, glue on cover, moderate amount of tape, large piece married to cover with tape, but you can't tell. Like, looking at it, I don't even see any tape. So, not quite sure how that happened, but it presents super well. The only gripe with it is there's a giant J where it would say issue number 1. But outside of that, I never thought I would have this book in my collection. I was happy to just have number 2, but I'm pretty excited to have this, and it adds a lot of financial value just to my Amazing Spider-Man collection. Number 2. Now, this book is relatively cheap. I started pricing this earlier, and you can get the same copy and higher copies for a lot less than what I paid for this book. Granted, whenever I did it, it was right when they were announcing that the Snyder Cut was going to have Darkseid in it, and it kind of spiked. But I knew that I wanted that book, so I got Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen 134 at a 7.5. And you know, there's a lot of, like, you've got cameos of Darkseid, first full appearance of Darkseid from Forever People. But this cover is so much better. I got on a kick of where I wanted to have Superman villains to match with my Batman collection, cause a ton of Batman villains. So I want Superman villains. And Darkseid is definitely one that I wanted to have. Now, this cover, I was familiar with it, but until I received this book, I didn't appreciate just how good a comic book cover this book really is, especially in a higher grade, because it has a lot of black, dark, and gray, and it fades, and then you have Superman being carried out on front. It's a Neil Adams cover, and this is a beautiful book. I'm going to show where I find how cheap you can find these on eBay right now, and if you don't have this book, and since Marvel is spiking so high right now, I would definitely recommend picking this up, especially for as cheap as it's going for right now in higher grades. Alright, so my number 1 pick, going back to the comic book shop story. Whenever we got ready to close our comic book shop down, we had a draft where we had our inventory and we were getting ready to close down. So we did a draft of different books that we wanted to keep, this, that, and the other. And this was one of my picks. Now, it was a raw book, it was just sitting on the shelf, but I knew that I wanted it. So we sent it off to get cleaned and pressed by Josh Avery, and when I received it back, it came back at a 9.8, which is ridiculous. I was not expecting this to come back at 9.8. I was overly thrilled. I have a reaction to it. I've filmed where it was unboxing, so I'll put a link for that video as well. And this book is a very hot book. At the end of 2020, they announced that, who was it? Christian Bale is going to be playing Gorr in the upcoming Thor movie. This cover is beautiful. I judge books by covers, I'm sorry. But this cover is beautiful. I love it. If you have not read the story, it is so well done. I cannot recommend it higher, especially for a Marvel story, Thor story. It's good. Jason Aaron did a phenomenal job writing the story. So there you have it. My number 1 pick of 2020 is my copy of God of Thunder, number 2 at a 9.8 white pages. Alright guys, that concludes my top 5 CGC books for this year. I would love to know what other collectors have gotten, what you guys enjoyed, some of the great covers that you may have gotten that you didn't think you were going to get. So if you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button, drop me a like, because it'll help my channel grow. And I love getting feedback. I love communicating with people and just talking about the hobby in and of itself. So may the Lord bless you guys. Love you, and be safe out there.